Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our Wednesday weekly creativity workshop with Adobe Education. Today is Wednesday, September 25th at 12 o'clock noon, and actually I'm joining you from Australia today, so here it's Thursday, September 26th. But I'm very excited to be joined by Stephen Burns, who's joining us from San Diego, California, who's going to be sharing 3D lighting techniques in Photoshop. So, Stephen, I'll just go ahead and hand it off to you.
All right. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Clara. Thank you for Adobe. Thank you, huge thanks, Adobe, for allowing me to be presenter here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, everybody, for taking a lot of valuable time out of your day to come and watch me share a little bit more about 3D here. I started as an artist drawing and painting when I was younger. I took classes at Palomar College, art classes, and decided to buy a camera to learn about how to take pictures to do better paintings. And of course, buying that camera led me to become fascinated with the concept of art and technology, which led me to taking every photographic class and getting my certificate in photography, and then going professional for photography. I've been doing photography for over 20 years. I've been a professional, basically doing and living and making my income through photography back in the day for a good 17 years. So I started in pretty much the late 80s, early 90s, went professional, doing a lot of corporate work, a lot of professional special effects work, corporate brochures, weddings and portraits. I've done everything in photography in terms of making a living with it. And of course, that led me into understanding or getting involved into digital. And of course, that led me to Photoshop and version 2.5. And Photoshop became fascinated with the digital. And then a friend introduced me to this program called, it's a 3D landscape program called Bryce. And that got me hooked into 3D. Actually, it was POV-Ray at first. POV-Ray, which I think it stands for Persistence of Vision, which was a line coding 3D program, which I didn't really take to because I'm much more of the creative type. But then I got into the Bryce, which really piqued my interest. That led to Poser, which does 3D and animal characters. And then that led to Lightwave, and of course, that led me into Maya. So I currently teach Maya and ZBrush at the university at Golden West College, and I'm doing an intro to gaming art right now, which is featuring the primary 3D programs Maya, and ZBrush, and I'll also introduce a little bit of Lightwave in there too. So I'm going to talk about lighting in Photoshop, but I just wanted to give you an idea that I also have my strongest background is in the professional 3D programs. And Lightwave is one of my other main programs of choice, which I've used for decades. So I'm going to kind of give you an insight of lighting, comparing it to real world lighting and what's going on in the digital world of lighting. And I want to kind of introduce some interesting techniques that I think many people probably have not really, explored in Photoshop, to be specific. All right, so I'm going to try to avoid rendering because rendering is dangerous when you're actually doing a webinar and then your screen capture program is actually taking resources from your video card, and your 3D program is taking a lot more resources from your video card, and it can cause crashes with Photoshop. So I'm going to share with you, as best as I can without having an actual render. I've done some renders already, just to kind of give you an idea of what it should look like after the fact. But we're going to kind of go in here and take a look at lighting in Photoshop. Now, as you all are well aware, we have another program called Dimension, which Adobe, I believe, has shared with the community that it wants to kind of take 3D toward the Dimension program. But still, 3D is going to be it's still prevalent in Photoshop. And I think it should stay that way in Photoshop because Photoshop still needs the ability to take in 3D in order for your concept artists to blend 3D with your overall environment, right? So the workflow now is that I can bring in a 3D object, bring it into Photoshop, do my drawing and painting all around it, and then integrate the 3D object with my 2D matte work. So that's kind of the workflow now. let's see, I'm looking at a question here. He's guessing that much of what a Photoshop 3D does today will all end up dimension. Well, Teresa made the comment, that is what Adobe tells us. Now, here's the problem, then I'm going to go forward with this. I don't want to get stuck on the politics of this here. But Adobe didn't really intend to jump fully immersive into 3D. They intended to introduce something that would kind of add to the workflow of artists out there. They realized a lot of concept artists probably need 3D to kind of do their digital painting with. But Adobe only wanted to go that far at first. That was the original thought process. But then they find out, you know what, you can't just half do 3D. You know, if you're going to do it, you got to go all out there, because 3D doesn't allow you, the workflow of 3D doesn't allow you to go halfway. So yes, Adobe made a comment about it being, maybe pushing over the dimension, but we'll wait and see. Okay, and I'm just saying that from a standpoint of somebody who actually makes my living using 3D as well. All right, now I've got an object here. Now this object, I'm going to show you two types of objects here. One that I created in a 3D program that I'm going to light, play with lighting on, and another one that I completely created the 3D object in Photoshop. Okay, so this object was created in Lightwave, a combination of Lightwave and ZBrush, and I figured this might be a good one just to share with you that yes, you can import 3D objects into Photoshop. Okay, all right. And Teresa says, yep, you can't model dimension. Yeah. And in terms of dimension, there's a lot to be done yet. I think dimension has some great capabilities. I love the capabilities of it so far, but it has a little while to go. All right. So in Photoshop, you're giving, once your 3D objects, and I'm going to go over here to the layers here. If you look over here at my layers, you have a 3D layer, and we know that because we have this three-dimensional looking cube in the bottom right-hand side of the corner of my character. Any object can be imported into Photoshop, okay? So if we go over to our 3D menu and new 3D layer from File, you'll go get the file, open it up, and it will, ideally, you should have an OBJ. OBJ is considered the JPEG of the 3D world. All right. So if you have an OBJ, religiously, any 3D program out there is going to be able to read it. That was how I imported this in from ZBrush and Lightwave. So after I finished it in ZBrush, I exported it out as an OBJ, and then Photoshop was able to import that in accurately. And through Photoshop, I can place on the textures. I'm not going to talk about textures today. I want to focus more on lighting. This 3D is so vast. We can spend all day talking on this stuff. So in the lighting here, here's my character. It's on our nice little 3D plane. We got an immersive 3D environment. And you can see an example of lights here. I'm going to go back and share with you some of the lighting styles that we have in Photoshop. Once your character is committed to 3D, we have to be in our 3D panel. This is pretty much where you're going to spend most of your time in the 3D panel here once you import your 3D object. You're not going to spend much time in layers anymore. You're now in the 3D world, so we're going to go to the 3D menu. Now, what I like to do is set my 3D menu in here with my layers and channels, and then put the properties panel right down here at the bottom and attach it. Okay, and just for help here, I think I'm going to detach the properties and put it right over here to the left so it's easier for you to read what we're going to do. Okay, in my 3D panel, I've got my cameras, I've got my character here, okay, and then right below I have my lights. If I target the light, you can see I've got a light source chosen, and I'm going to turn this one that says spotlight here. I'm going to turn that off. All right, so I've got too many lights on here. I want to kind of approach this from understanding lighting from a photographer's point of view, and that we're going to start with the side lighting here. Now this side lighting, I'm illuminating it with an infinite light. There are 3 light sources in Photoshop. So your infinite light is your sunlight. It represents distant, way distant light sources. Okay, so you can't move it around. Therefore, the only rotational point is going to be close to your 0, axis, or the center of your character. So if I rotate this around, you can see that I'm able to light this from any direction all around my 3D scene, not just the model, but the entire 3D scene. Okay. Now, like I said, you guys have microphones, so if you want to kind of like stop and ask me questions, go ahead. You're welcome to. All right, so that's my infinite light. My other light sources are going to be my spotlight and my point light. We'll get into those in just a moment. So here in my light source panel, I've created some presets. So once I set up my light, say for example I set it up from way up high, something like this, get that little monster looking lighting coming from the very top of the head here, I can save that. I can go to my presets on my properties panel, drop it down, and then say save, and then maybe we'll call this one monster lighting. And you can see my other presets that I've saved here: Rembrandt lighting, front lighting, rim lighting, side lighting, 3/4 lighting. We'll take a look at that in just one moment. So if I save this, it saved the position of that lighting. Let's go take a look at our side lighting. I'm going to drop it right over here to the preset, come on down here to side lighting, click it, and it's going to reposition it. And I did all this before you guys came on. I want to kind of set up the different types of lighting that you would use as a photographer. So you're going to be lighting basically half your subject, and the other half is being lit in shadow. We have another style of lighting, which we call 3/4 lighting, which we're lighting 3/4 of the face. So I'm going to come right down here and get my 3/4 lighting, and it's going to reposition it as I positioned before you guys came online. All right. So it's lighting 3/4 of the face. So 1/4 of your face is going to fall off in shadow. Just right. The shadow starts right beside the other eye, the opposite eye there, from the direction of your light source. If I come on back up to here, I have what's called front lighting, or often what's called beauty lighting, where that big round dish is directly in front of the model's face and it illuminates it, completely bright to give you that glow, and the eyes just kind of pop out at you there in terms of contrast. So I'll come right over here, and I have a front lighting and target that, and it's targeted directly onto the model. So I'm always keeping in mind some of those lighting concepts as I'm creating my model. Okay, so we have our Rembrandt lighting, which is considered more the most attractive lighting. It's where the light is coming from a 45-degree angle from up. That's basically how we see sunlight on a day-to-day basis. Usually, sunlight is never straight on to anybody. It's always at this very sharp angle, normally around 45 degrees as the sun, or approximately as the sun moves across the sky. So our Rembrandt lighting, let's go over here and grab that preset. And right here, okay, is your 45-degree angle approximately, where you're going to create a nice little triangle underneath the opposite eye. Right, a little lighting triangle there. Everything else is going to go in the shade. So once you start understanding these concepts of some of the basic portrait lighting, then from there you can kind of spin off into your own little lighting combinations. One last one I like to share is your rim lighting, and that's where everything else pretty much goes in the shadow, and your lighting is coming from behind you, from a very sharp angle from behind you, just illuminating the edge of the body, right? So I'll go right over here, and I believe I got the rim lighting right there, and there it is, okay? And I might even kind of move it back a little more, somewhere like this, and I can intensify my light source. Let's go bring this. I'm going to bring this to this side. I'm just used to working with it this way. I can go over here. All your lighting settings have the ability to intensify your light source or colorize your light source. So if I bring the slider over to the right, you can see it get real intense, which is usually what you have with rim lighting. You want to intensify that edge so that um, everything goes in the shadow, and of course the opposite side you're going to light with a different light source to kind of bring out the detail on the front. But that's going to be kind of like your framing aspect of your portrait is that little hot rim light. We can change the color. So if I tap on the color here, let's say maybe go to something like a bluish color like so, and it automatically changes on the fly. All right, real nice feature, and it's fast. It's super fast. So if I bring it, let's just go to a nice, rich, deep blue, and then let's light it with the opposite, a warmer color. We can add another light source in there. Now, right down here in the bottom of your 3D panel, you have a picture of your light right on the bottom edge there. If I click it, I can put in another spot. I'll say an infinite light. Drop it down there, okay? Tag the infinite light, and another one jumps on. No one had a question there? All right.
Yeah, we
All
have a
right.
couple questions
Go
in
for
the
it.
chat here. So first off, Claudio is asking, are the lighting presets available for download? If you had mentioned that, he
Okay.
said.
Well, Claudia, I can make them for download. I suppose let's see, if I go over here to my custom save as preset here. For example, I got a new lighting. Actually, let's just make this, and I'm going to save it as a preset. So opposite light is going to be, I want it to be not as bright as the rim light. So if I come down here to 100% intensity, click and hold on the word intensity and bring it down a little bit so that backlight dominates. And then we're going to change the color to the opposite of blue, which is going to be a nice warmer. And then we're going to save this preset. And I'm going to find out where that preset is so I can give it to you. So if I come over here, custom presets, save it. All right, right up here it tells me it's inside my roaming Adobe presets lighting. Yes, I can give you these presets. In fact, I tell you what, can I select individuals? Okay, I can't multiple select. All right, I'll have to manually go in here, and I will give those to Clara for all of you to download these if you like. Okay, so we'll make that
Thank
happen.
you.
You're most welcome.
Thanks so much, Stephen. And yeah, I'll make sure to get that out. I appreciate that. And I'm looking if there's a couple other questions. Claudia said, how about the environment you create in Photoshop? How can you mix them? I'm not sure.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay, perfect. And then Teresa asked, does Photoshop only have one infinite light or one infinite light per document? And then Lucas said there is no, quote, ambient light.
There is.
Okay.
We're getting there. So the question, well, I probably just answered Teresa's questions in that now I have about two infinite lights in here as opposed, well, I got one infinite light. I can put more. So I can come over here and say, give me another infinite light to go way in the back. Click it. And there it is. Now I've got two infinite lights and one of my, what is that one here? Actually, no, I've got them all as infinite lights here. So I've got three infinite lights now. So this one I can switch it so that, rotate it so it comes more from the background. And of course I can play with its color as well and use that as a type of a rim light. I'll bring it to the opposite side of the body just a little bit. There we go. And I'll go ahead and change that color to kind of a blue. Okay. So yes, Teresa, you can have as many, you can have quite a few infinite lights before your system crashes. So play with the lights, see how many your system will take. And of course, it depends on your graphics card. It's got to be a huge must. The better the graphics card that you have, the faster and better results you're going to get with 3D and Photoshop. Okay, so we have other lighting, so let's go ahead and delete them all, all right? I'm going to select them all. I'm going to shift select them all. And just to be aware of this, if I shift select them all, I can rotate them. Once I'm in the move tool, here are my navigational tools right up here at the top. I'm in the rotation navigational tool now. They're all selected, and I can rotate them all as one piece, right? They're all connected together, okay? If I click on the color, let's see if now they all change to red now because I have them all selected. Or I can go to white, which means it's going to go really bright. I can control the intensity of the light source, not just by bringing it up to the top where the luminosity is at 100%, but bring it on down, or brightness, luminosity or brightness. You can see it right here under the B, 100%. If I bring it down, I can control the intensity of the light based on its value as well. So the value controls the intensity, the color or the hue controls your color. Okay, so you can work with it that way as well, so that you don't always have to use your intensity slider in your properties for your light source. Okay, so here we'll bring it down. We'll bring down the intensity just a little bit right about there, and click OK. And let's go play with another image. Okay, this image I'm going to share with you next is a 3D object that I created solely in Photoshop. It was not created by a third-party program like Maya or Lightwave. So, and it's this one here. Okay, so I found a bottle opener in my drawer and decided that, you know what, I can model this. Okay, I can model this. And I included it in my new book, 3D Photoshop for Creative Professionals. So this is the final render. And what I did was I created a lighting system where I created a softbox. If you look at this, you can see the softbox basically, reflecting in my subject here. Now, I'm going to go back and show you the raw 3D file before we render it. And give you an idea what it looks like. Okay. All right. I've got it here. Oop, wrong one. That one. Okay, there it is. Now, as you can see here, this is unrendered. So I'm going to go ahead and get in close, hit my F key to go to full frame mode, and let's go ahead and just get rid of those guides. There's always gets on my nerves. This is my 3D object. Go to my layers, and you can see it's all. Let's go back here to my vector shapes. There's my object there. Okay. This is my secondary view. I don't want to talk about that just yet. But if I come right over here, go to my 3D panel, you can see I've got my corkscrew right there. Okay. I also made individual cameras. I will talk about those later. Let's just focus on the lighting for now. Here's my object, and with I can place, once the object's highlighted, I get my little 3D widget view here. I can come right over here and kind of, play around with this. And I've created this using various parts. Now, I did a demo on creating 3D objects in Photoshop, if I remember correctly, through Blue Jean. So you might want to go back and check that out. So what I want to do now is I want to create a light source that's similar to what you saw before. So if I come over here, I don't have that light source right now. Right now I have a single light source. It's being lit with this light. At least that's what I think. This is not being lit only by this light. It's being lit by two light sources. One is this infinite light. The other is under the environment tab. Now someone just brought up the question about lighting with environments. I'm lighting with another environment here. And what an environment light does is it takes an image and lights your scene. Okay, let's turn that off for now. We'll come back to seeing what that does in just a moment. So under the environment tab, I'm gonna go to my properties here, and you get to see the picture of what's lighting this scene right there. IBL, image-based light. To the right is a photograph. I want to actually view the photograph in Photoshop. Hit that little dog-eared symbol to the right. That means that you actually have a image associated with your object, edit texture, and there it is. So Command 0 pops to the full view. This is the image lighting my entire 3D scene. Now, I can use any image to light that scene, and we'll come back to that, okay? At least don't let me forget to come back to this. So I'm going to turn this off for now. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Command W, right? And in my environment tab, there's a little checkbox next to IBL. So the question here is, can environment be saved? Let's see. That's a good question. If I drop it here, new texture, replace texture, remove texture, reset IBL. It's not giving me ability to save my environment. There may be a way which I can probably go down in my preferences somewhere on my Windows machine to find it, but currently, as far as I'm aware of, Adobe does not give me the ability to save out that image-based lighting. So remember, all image-based lighting is an image. So as long as you know what the image is and where the image is, you can always go back and bring it back, and that will light your scene. Okay, so, all right. Let me put it this way. Your other lighting features, like your infinite light, is a 3D, well, not just an option, it's a 3D element in your 3D scene that can be saved and reset and so forth. The environment is not a 3D element. Basically, it's affecting your entire 3D scene globally, okay, using image information. But I'm going to turn that one off. Uncheck the checkbox to the left of the IBL and watch what happens. It goes dark, really dark. Okay, so whenever you bring in a 3D object, by default, you get this IBL lighting system intact, and it starts to give you your ambient lighting. So what Adobe is using the IBL light here is for your ambient light source spilling from all around your scene. Okay, all right. Let me turn it off just for now. And now what we're seeing is only the infinite light. That's it. So now if I move this around, and this is the way I recommend that you work at first. Turn off all the ambient light sources like the IBL and just work with one light and learn what that light does and how it affects your scene. So you best you can save it after you edit. No, there's no option in here. I think Teresa's talking about the image-based lighting. There's no option for the IBL lighting to actually save it. It's not giving me that ability. The other tools I can, right? I can save it and recall it and so forth, but not in the environment tab. I don't seem to have that ability. If we do, then I'll say I'm wrong, but I don't remember ever seeing it. Yeah, Dimension works the same way. Dimension does not have the. Let me say this about Dimension. Dimension does not have the lighting flexibility and prowess as Photoshop yet. Now, I can't talk a lot about what's going to happen for NDA reasons, but it's not there yet. Okay. All right. So Lucas is saying, great to hear how you progressively build your training. Finding which order others teach a subject is really valuable. Okay, good. Very good. So yeah, so start with one light, understand it. So this is your sunlight coming from a distance, okay? With the light, I can control the softness. You know how when you bring a light source really close to something, how harsh the shadows become in terms of the shadow edge becomes sharper? And if you bring your light further away from a subject, the edges of your shadow become softer. I can control that here. So if I go to my properties panel, my infinite light is chosen, and right below is my properties. I'm gonna drink some water, so my mouth's getting dry because it's hot here in San Diego. I have right over here, in addition on my properties panel, in addition to intensity, right? control my intensity this way, I also have the ability to control the quality of the light. So shadow softness right here. If I bring it all the way over to here, to the left, we should get a shadow softness. Go to my light source here. Oops. Go back to my light source. There we go. Target the light. Let's do this. I'll have to render to show you. If I pull this on over, there we go. You can see it very closely. Let me get in closer. I'm trying to avoid rendering, guys. I don't want any crashes, so I'm going to get in close. Okay? All right. Now, if I bring this on to 0, you see that? Right there. See how harsh it becomes? All right. And if I bring the slider over to softness, it starts to take the shadows and soften the edges and soften the edges. You can see all that happening here. It looks like a bunch of noise right now, but that's basically your OpenGL proxy saying those are going to be real soft edge, while this is going to be really hard edge. Okay, so I think that's kind of making the point. So pay attention to your shadow softness down here. I have a tendency to kind of start off here, but when you're teaching this stuff, take it down to 0. Work with your light, get used to the harshness, and then have your students bring it up a little bit here, bring it up a little bit more, and render it a little bit more. Have them do several different renders. I have my students do 5 different renderings. One where the slider's here, one where it's like 41%, another one's like 65, 70 something, or 80 something, and then go all the way to 100. And let them see the progression of what happens when your shadow is given this edge quality here, or your softness edge quality. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring this on back. Command 0 to pop that to full view. All right, now, so we know that, okay, if I'm lighting a product, right, am I going to be using sunlight to light a product? Probably not. I might consider going to my light source here, or coming right down here to the bottom where it says infinite lights in my property, and alter that to a spotlight. So if I click that, okay, it disappeared on me. I think it might be better, let me see, to actually add a new light in there. I think I would rather do that. Let's see how this happens. Whenever I change a light source, it disappears on me, and I'm not quite sure where to find it. Well, I'll tell you what, here's a way to find it. This is a good tutorial here. Right down here in the properties, you can see here I have all my options for my light sources. To the right, under the right below the properties tab, you see 2 little icons here. One is showing you your preferences to alter your light source. Another one which is going to reposition my light source in coordinate view. And if you look at all these coordinates here, it's basically saying that light is kind of like where the hell it went, somewhere in 3D space. I don't know where it is. If I go, spinning it around, like if I spin it around 3D space, where the hell is, there it is, way over there, right? Pain in the rear, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is go reset it. Go to my coordinate view, and see these little half circles here? Reset it back to X, Y, and Z axis 0, 0, 0. There. Oops. Undo it. What happened? I didn't have the light source correctly checked. So target the spotlight, not the current camera. All right, so spotlight here. Let's see, someone has a question here. A Fresnel is an infinite light since it's parallel, but it would be near light giving hard shadows. We set the view, not the light. So I'm going to reset. I don't want to reset the view. I want to reset the light. So I'm going to go to the spotlight, and I'm going to click it here. There it is. It just popped at 0, 0, 0. If I go to rotation, click that, it pops back to its standard rotation. All right. You can't resize spotlights. So what spotlights are, it gives you the ability to use something that you have in theater lighting, where you can control the angle of the light source, the intensity of the light, or the depth of the light force through its intensity, All right, you can control the cone and the softness of the edges, hard edge or softer edges. So if I bring this back and out, I have the ability to move it. Also, I have the ability to rotate it. So spotlight's here. I can rotate my light. See that there? Let's bring it forward a little bit more. There we go. And I'm going to bring it back a little bit like so. So if I take my cursor and place it on right on the dot where this little angle cone edge connects to the front, I'm going to go ahead and I should be able to resize my cone. So the bottom one is your intensity. And this is where your light fall off is up here. So you have to be like right on it, right? You can control the fall off that way. So be aware of that. Okay. All right. It says, can you view top, left, front, and the same? Okay. Yes and no. Adobe hasn't integrated a 4-up view where you see the front, side, top, and back at the same time in perspective. So what they do have is this. Under my view menu, I should be able to come down to my show, and I want to show my 3D secondary view. If I click it, I've got another view. Well, what views do I have the option of actually seeing in here? There's my picture of my camera. Drop it down. Left, right, top, bottom. Now, if I click on top, for instance, there it is. Click and hold, I can drag it. If I want to zoom in because it's too far away, hold your Option or Alt key, drag up and down, and that zooms in. Now, you can't do anything in this view. It's just a view. Now, have we screamed at Adobe about giving us the ability to actually manipulate the view? Of course we did. But we can only manipulate inside the main scene. So Adobe's answer was to, hey, allow the users to actually switch the views. So I can put the top view here so I can manipulate it and then put this view here over in the secondary panel. To do so, on the top right of that secondary panel, I'm going to click this, and it's there, all right? So where is it? I don't know. We'll have to kind of zoom back and just kind of zoom around and see kind of there it is, okay? Top view, all right? So if I want to take my light source, right, and drag it around, go to target the light source, and I want to drag it around, I can do it now from the top view. Now, what if I want to get back my other view again, right? Well, we got to go back and get it, hit that little top button, top right-hand corner of the secondary view, and it brings us back, all right? And I'm going to click onto the ground plane, which allows me to manipulate the camera. See, it jumps the camera right away. And since I have the Move tool targeted, and then I'm going to target the Rotation tool, I can go back to where I was. Go back to my Move tool here and bring it on down. Okay, is that making sense? All right, so, but we also have the point light view, right? So if I click on the point light, I'm going to turn this off. So I had finished thinking there. There it is. So I'm going to turn off. There's my point light. I'm going to turn off the spotlight. There. Okay. So my point light is basically a light bulb with, uninhibited. It's 360-degree radiating light. Right? Think of an incandescent light bulb. And with a targeted Move tool on, I can play around with where that's going to be positioned. Right? I can come forward. I can go backwards. I can go up or down. Right? You can see how the light's affecting it. And I can also control its intensity just like any other. But the idea here is to look at it and see the quality of the light, to see how it's affecting. I'm sorry. I thought I turned off my phone. All right. So I want to share with you guys another lighting technique where, shutting off my phone here, where that is not so obvious that you have that you can make light source out of other things like 3D objects. So remember we talked about we wanted to create that softbox look, that little square softbox look. Let's see, how do we actually do that? All right, so the question, somebody made a comment here saying, resetting your positions using your coordinate view here helps you to find your object. Absolutely. Because sometimes you import an object from another 3D program, your object's like somewhere out in 3D space. It's there, you just can't find it. So just reset your view to 000 coordinates to the 000 X, Y, and Z coordinate view. It jumps right there, and you can find it every time. All right, so another person mentioned, very helpful to know how Photoshop differs from other 3D programs. Right, Photoshop, Adobe's got some work to do. I mean, I've been doing 3D for decades, but I've been working in pro programs, so I'm not coming at this from a more of a newer person point of view, because already my mind's thinking, okay, I want to do this and this and this and this, and that's what their users are going to do. Their users are going to get used to their tools, and then they're going to go play with the free program called Blender, which Blender is a pro program, and they're going to realize, wait a minute, Adobe should do this and this also. So that's where I'm saying my criticism is that, or my suggestion is that Adobe isn't just going to stop short of doing full 3D. They're going to be forced to do the whole thing so that we can really express ourselves creatively in any direction that we want to without any hindrance. I think that's always the name of the game in creating in general. Stephen, do you work with the latest release of Photoshop CC? Yes, I do. I'm also a beta tester for Adobe for Photoshop for both Dimension, Photoshop, ACR, other programs as well. Okay, so you're welcome. Yeah, you're most welcome. So now let's turn off all the lighting. I'm going to delete it. There's my point light source. I'm going to delete it. We've got 10 minutes, or we've got 11 minutes left. That's perfect timing. Go to the spotlight, delete it. Let's make a new light. Go to my layers. There's my 3D object, right? Go check something, my 3D panel. All right. So there is my 3D object. It's not lit, right? So remember, I want to create that how should I say it? I want to create, I'm going to grab my pen here. I want to create that soft box look. So to do so, I think what I'm going to do is create a softbox and tell Photoshop to make that softbox a light. Very few people know you can do this in Photoshop. All right, so let's create a new layer, brand new layer. There it is. And with that layer selected, I'm going to fill that layer with a color. So I'm going to go to my top view, and then I'm going to use my shortcut for fill with the foreground color, which is going to be my Alt, let's see, I think it's my Alt Delete. Okay. So with this targeted, I'm going to take this object or that 2D layer and alter it into a 3D object. So to do so, go to my 3D panel, 3D postcard. So once the layer is targeted, automatically I get these options here. I can create an extrusion, mesh from preset, or I can go to a 3D postcard. Target it, create it, is there. Go to my 3D, go to my layers panel, and you can see right next, right above my other 3D object here, my bottle opener is another 3D object. Okay, I'm going to cascade this up so I can put them next to one another. Now, the goal here is to get them all into a single 3D scene. So if I start adding lights to this, it's only going to light one of them because these are two completely separate 3D scenes. This is the beauty of 3D in Photoshop, is that you can have multiple 3D scenes and multiple layers. Well, what if I want to take those two objects or 10 objects or 20 objects and merge them together in a single 3D scene. I'm going to target this, both of them, go to my 3D menu, and it's basically the second one down, merge 3D, and there it is. Sit back and relax. Now I'm gonna save this one, Command Shift S, because if it crashes, I'm gonna be really mad. So I'm gonna call this one 3D tutorial AEL. All right, as a TIFF file here. Close it out. Now I have no lights, right? I don't need the 3D layers. I don't need the layers anymore. I need to go to my 3D panel. And in my 3D panel, we got the corkscrew and we got the layer 6 mesh. Okay. So if I double click it, I'm going to call this one softbox. With the softbox targeted, let's make it do something. If you take a look at this, let's go ahead to my current camera, tap and release on the ground plane, tell it to use rotation as my navigational tool, and I can move this around. As you can see, they're right next to each other. Let's take that panel, target the softbox panel, bring it down. How about if we bring it over, let's bring it forward. I want to bring it to the side here. Use my 3D widget. Let's make it bigger. Stretch it up by tapping and holding on that little square symbol on the 3D widget, which is going to restrict it to stretching it out in the Y direction. I want to take it up higher like this, and then I'm going to take it out in this direction, on the X direction. If I have accidentally lose it, I just kind of tap on the object here to bring it back. Go to the box for the X. We're going to bring it off to the side. See, it's being really touchy today. Right there. Okay. Now I'm going to rotate this. So go to my rotation option. Rotate it like so. Okay. There's my softbox. Now let's light this little guy. All 3D objects have a surface property. If we target layer 6, I can rename that one softbox. Double clicking on it, and I'll do so now. Okay. And right on the bottom, we have our properties for that particular surface. So the question is, can each of the 3D layers have its own light? Absolutely. Each of the 3D layers can have multiple lights because they're a completely separate 3D scene. One 3D layer does not interact with the others unless you merge them together. Okay. Someone mentioned that Teresa says she's in Photoshop pre-release 2, and there isn't anything significantly new for 3D coming out in the next release. Well, currently, yeah. That's. I mean, I would be careful. I don't know if we're NDA here or not, so I'm be careful what I'm saying.
We're not, yeah.
Okay, so I
This is
thought.
open to anybody. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I figured this was open and this is not NDA, so you may want to be careful, Teresa. It's like, so, all right.
Yeah, and
So,
if those who are joining who don't have beta access to Photoshop, if you're interested, just let me know. You can send me an email and I can look more into that for you.
okay. All right. So, okay. So Teresa says she's just talking about right now. I'm just saying. Boy, I'm going to get spanked after this. But anyways, we're going to light the scene. Softbox, right below it is your surface properties. We can add shine, we can add reflection, we can add roughness and bump. But if you check up here in these first few boxes here, diffuse is the color. And if you notice, everything went gray with except for the one that we have targeted. So when we have targeted, which means it's going to clear up, that's the one we have selected. And I want to focus on illumination. Oh, that's interesting. Illumination. Let's click on that. Oh, what do I get here? I get the color picker panel. What if I take this and go way up here like that, right? And then click OK. something's happening here. If I click on this, and I can kind of, let me get my rotation command and kind of rotate it here. Now, I'm going to have to risk rendering because we won't see this unless we render. So let's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to render a small part. Grab that right there. That's it. So I'm going to use a shortcut to render, or I can hit this little button right in the bottom of your 3D panel. It's a little rectangle button with a thick highlight around it. That's your 3D render button. Or you can use the Command, Option, or Alt, Shift. Command or Control, Option, or Alt, Shift. All three modifiers are for render. Okay, so render's in progress. Let's see what happens. There it is. See that, guys? It just lit it. Right? It just lit it. And look at the softness. Look at the boxes in there. The texture's coming up really nice. So what helped with adding this reflectivity is actually in the properties of the softbox. Now I'm hitting Escape key to stop it, which is, why I didn't want to render, because it's kind of taking its own sweet time to stop. Lucas says, correct. We are always building on what we already know. That's exactly right. So someone says, Stephen, this is awesome. Thank you. I think it's from Lucas. Thank you. I appreciate it. Teresa says, what you meant is that if you learn the current version, it will not be obsolete in the new future. Right. I mean, this is what I recommend. If you're teachers and you really want to teach this stuff right, go download Blender. It's a free, full-featured pro program. It has all the stuff in it that Lightwave and Maya and all the pro programs have in it, but it's free. And learn lighting, 3D lighting in there, and get used to how a professional package works, so that you can come back to Photoshop and say, oh, this is really easy. But at least you'll understand what's going on. All right, I'm still hitting the Escape key to turn this off. And this what's the fears that's going to get caught. It'll turn off eventually, but it's going to take another minute or two. And did I want to show? Well, I did want to show one other thing. Hopefully we can get this to stop soon. I want to avoid having to shut down Photoshop harshly. Come on. Hitting Escape. Let's see. Move the Y-axis. All right, so nothing's happening until it stops. So another question here. There is no escape. There is no escape. There's definitely no escape from this. The problem is I'm also using Blue Jeans to tax my video card resources. So it's I knew it was going to be a little bit of a problem. Command question mark. I can do the Command Alt Shift. I can do that one. I mean, I don't want to shut it down, but that harshly, but I will, just to show you this other little technique. Command period. No, it's Command Option Shift Delete. Command Option Delete. All right. So Task Manager. Where's my Task Manager? Where are you? There it is. Okay. All right. I may have to shut it off this way. If it doesn't, it's just not going to behave. Let me see if it's not behaving. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to go back. All right. Now I'll just go back to it again because I saved it, right? I tell you what, we can always use another image. There she is. All right. This is what I'll do. I'll do it this way. I think it'll be easier and faster. We'll use a primitive object. Let's open up Photoshop again, and I'm going to show you the image-based lighting. And I'm going to go grab. Okay. Photoshop is back up again. You didn't warn us if it would do this. If you remember, I'm using Blue Jeans. I'm using another program that's using my video card to share my screen with you guys. So that's what it'll do. If I'm not doing that, it won't it won't be fine. Here's one. We'll use this one. Okay. Here's one I created in. I created this in Lightwave. Okay. So I created a 3D model in Lightwave. This time I used the help of Poser to create my character. I designed the interior in Lightwave. I textured it in Lightwave. All this is all done in Lightwave. So, but I've imported it into the Photoshop 3D interface. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to light this. I want to show you. Go to my environment light. IBL is not on. But what I do have is I have 3 separate different light sources here. So let me just turn them all off. Hit the eyeball next to each of my light sources. And it's now I have illumination turned on for some of these areas in here, just as you saw on the panel for your 3D object. So they're going to be illuminated. I'm going to leave those alone. That's fine. So what I want to do is I want to take an image. I want to light the entire scene. Now, this is going to be very helpful. I'm going to go to my Opera browser, and I'm going to go to a website that I think you should pay attention to. It's called textures.com. Okay? And this is for CG artists, and it's free. I'm going to log in. Log in. It's all free. So I can come up here and I can put in something like skyscraper, right? And click it, and it's going to give you small, medium size, and high-res images of anything that you want. So if I click on the search button, it's going to bring up all those images associated with skyscrapers. I always have my students use this quite a bit because a lot of them don't always have, images recorded in their stockpile of of image arsenal. So let me kind of pull this back on up here. So, but what I'm interested in is IBL. Okay, let me kind of go back up here, and let's see if I go back. Let's go backwards here to the search page, and I want IBL. See what I get. No textures found. How about, what do we call that? I'm forgetting the terminology on this one. 360 degree. Let's see what I've got. I think 360 is a good search word. There we go. Okay. You got a 360 degree panoramic, and these are often IBL lighting, which basically means they're HDR images. So they're 32-bit images. So let's go ahead and just pick one. I'll do this one. Click on it. I can download it free. Which one do I want? Oh, let's just do this one here. Download it. Where do I want it? I want to go ahead and put it into my presentations folders under the AEL. I'll put it directly into the root of AEL. It's a JPEG. All right. Now we're going to go back into Photoshop. There's my ship. My environment is already targeted. Click the IBL option. That's the one we want. Okay. And then I'm going to come. Now, right now, nothing. I got a dark gray selected. That's why you're seeing a little bit of lighting here. So I want to come over to my folder, and I'm going to load in that new texture. And I'm going to go back to my AEL. I think I put it into the root of AEL, and it should be right down in here. There it is, textures.com. Target OK. And let's watch what happens. There it is. See that? It lit it up. So I have reflectivity on my ship. Here's my body of my ship here, my texture. And I have a little bit of reflections. Actually, I have no reflections on this one. But let's go back to my environment. With the environment on, it takes the image and it wraps it around your entire 3D scene. Edge to edge together, so it's seamless. And we know that because if I take my rotation command while having IBL turned on, or the environment map targeted, I can rotate that image around. See? you can see the image back there. And I can position the tones where I want them. So the sky is up, bring it up, and you can see it in the ship, how it's lighting everything. Get some water here. Okay, so that is our brief overview. Brief overview of lighting in Photoshop. There's more I can show you, but that's all we have time for mostly today. I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Let's take a look at some of the questions here. All right, someone had to leave, but thank you for coming. We'll see you next time. And brief, that was a ton of great info. Teresa. Thank you, Teresa. So let's see. I think, no, that's all I see in terms of the questions. So someone said they Googled it. IBL, by the way. You packed lots of awesome stuff in there. That was the title of your book. Yeah, let me show you my book very quickly. It's called, I'm going to just show it to you real fast. It is called 3D Photoshop for the Creative Professionals. I can probably get it on Amazon here. 3D Photoshop. And it's published by Focal Press for, there we go. That's probably it right there. That's Routledge. Yeah, that's the company. This is the company that's published my book. I think they merged. There it is. That's it. Okay. 3D Photoshop for Creative Professional. You'll find it at Barnes & Noble and Bookstar. It's internationally published. Great for the students. So every chapter from beginning and end is how to create something, a dynamic tutorial, all done in Photoshop, all rendered, modeled, textured in Photoshop. This front cover of the book is all done in 3D in Photoshop. No third-party programs. I do have a couple of chapters on how to import stuff from third-party programs, but the rest is primarily how to model, texture, render in Photoshop, and light in Photoshop. Okay? 3D Photoshop for Creative Professionals. And I think it's better to get it on Amazon. You can buy it directly through the publisher's website, or you can get it directly. Have your students go to Amazon to grab it.
Perfect. Yeah, and I just shared that link in there, Stephen. So hopefully that was helpful.
Oh, good. He says, now Georgina mentioned, I thought that was you, Stephen. It was cool to see other objects with your strategies. Thank you for the next level input, next level up. I guess I'm trying to read this. It's real small on my laptop. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, I appreciate it. Teachers can get free books as a reference. Yeah, you can get the teachers can get free books from any publisher, but your students should get them through Amazon. The publisher is not going to provide your students with the books, but they will provide it for the teachers to kind of take a look at it. And this is a fun one too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. This is so much great information, and I know we'll send out that recording. And I shared your edX profile on here as well. But is there any other way that those who are watching the recording can get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, you can contact me. I'm going to type in my email address, steve@chromeillusion.com. So steve@chromeillusion.com. I believe, make sure I spelled that correctly. Yep. And I tell you what, I will also give you my personal cell number. There you go. And we can chat.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much, Stephen, and thank you for all those who are watching the recording. We'll be sure to see you next week for our next creativity workshop. All right. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.